Welcome to a special edition of Following On with the news that England have announced a 15-man squad for the first of 6 men's tests this summer. It's against New Zealand at Lord's starting on June the 4th. Confirmation also that Durham Director of Cricket Marcus North has been confirmed as England's new men's selector. The uncapped pair of Emilio Gay and James Rew have both been included in the squad as possible opening partners for Ben Duckett, and Hampshire's uncapped paceman Sonny Baker is also in the 15-man squad, along with Sussex captain Ollie Robinson and Surrey's Matt Fisher, whose only test cap came in Barbados 4 years ago. Joining me to discuss all of this and some other news are Steve Harmison and talkSPORT's very own Director of Cricket, Jon Norman. Gentlemen, no great surprises. I mean, people will say, why did they name a 15-man squad? But I think they would have been more eyebrows raised if they'd named 12 2 weeks out from the first test, or 2.5 weeks out from the first test. So that's prudent, isn't it, Harmy?
Yeah, I think so. I think looking at the squad, I mean, it's always exciting. This is a great week. I mean, the build up to the first test match, the build up towards the Lord's test match is special. But the first test match of the summer, the excitement around it, England players, or the county players got asked to put your hand up, knock a door down, and get selected. And by and large, they've done that. Obviously, if you've been listening to the podcast over the last sort of 3 or 4 weeks, where I've been with the only sort of negative side of it, but the rest of it, I mean, the two opening batting options in Emilio Gay and James Rew, both scoring runs, give England a lot of options at the top. They've got spin bowling options, which is, I think they've bought some time. They've bought themselves some time. If they're not sure on Rew or Gay, let's have a look at them both at the same time. In a 4-day build-up, 5-day build-up. We're not sure on a spinning option. Let's have a look at them. Is it Rian? I'm pleased for Bashir because, do you know what? The lad took a bit of stick, went when Australia didn't play. I wouldn't say he's been ridiculed, but there's been a lot of noise around him being the sort of golden child picked off a YouTube or a social media clip. I think he's better than that. His best ball is a very, very good ball to show Bashir, and it comes with consistency, and I think it comes with the amount of volume of playing and going to work with Mickey Arthur. It looks as though some of the deliveries and some of the spells I've seen him bowl so far this summer, he looks as though he's getting better and better. It'll be interesting to hear Mickey's thoughts on it as well. So it's good to see Shoaib in the squad and still being around the group. Rian, I would select as that number 8 and give us a point of difference from that spin bowling point of view, as well as Matt Fisher gets his chance, which I quite like that selection. His numbers haven't shown how well I think he's bowled this year or how flat, and I'm sure Jon Norman can come in on how flat Surrey's pitches have been this season. And I think Matt Fisher has bowled quite well in spells this summer, and I think it's good to see him get a chance again off the back of obviously the debacle West Indies trip that ended Joe Root's tenure as captain. So, look, I'm excited about the squad. I'm not sure about the Ollie Robinson selection. That might come back to haunt them. I'm not going to.
We'll come back to that, Harmy. Yeah. We'll come back to the individual players. Jon, you've just been on a multimedia Zoom call with England's director of cricket, men's cricket, Rob Key. What were the standout features from him? We'll talk about Marcus North also a little bit later, but let's just stick to the 15-man squad at the moment.
Yeah, it was Rob Key back to being more in his comfort zone, I'd say. Rob obviously has been under a lot of pressure. He's had a lot of bricks thrown in his direction over the last couple of months, and he's looked rattled at times. Kind of felt a bit sorry for him. He has really taken it to heart what occurred in Australia. And no doubt, in my mind at least, that when talking about Ollie Robinson, and that for me is the top line, Ollie Robinson back in the side. When talking about Ollie Robinson and the fact that Ollie Robinson, when fit and bowling at the pace required, which Key specifically said, and you'll hear that cut in a second, if only he was fit and bowling at that speed and taking wickets towards the back end of 2025, right? You know, that could have been helpful to the England team to be able to take him to Australia. Let's hear what Rob Key had to say, though, about the selection of Ollie Robinson.
I always felt with Ollie that we've been pretty transparent in that. I think I said when we left him out the last time to him and publicly that Ollie Robinson, when he's fit and bowling at a decent pace for him, which is around 82, 83 mile an hour, he is world class. When you look at his record, he is one of the few bowlers right up there statistically in all the bowlers globally of all time. And Ollie's done that. That's what we feel anyway. We've monitored him a lot. We've seen him bowl. He looks like he's back up to his full fitness. And that's what we required of him. We've spoken to him a lot throughout the start of this summer. He's constantly been messaging as well. And Ollie Robinson, fit and at his best, is one of the best bowlers in the world. And it's exciting to see him back. And he'll add that new ball skill.
No doubt about it, though, Manners and Harmy. It's a massive risk. Massive risk. Robinson, as you have said, Harmy, brings with him a little bit of baggage, but he has to perform. And this is the whole situation for Robinson and the England team. They've all got a bit of baggage now, apart from some new debutants. And I'm fully expecting Emilio Gay to start. I think he mistakenly kind of gave the game away there. I think it will be Gay starting as opener alongside Ben Duckett. But this team just need to perform, right? No, nothing else would do now. They have to win. They have to get off to a good start against New Zealand. And, you know, if you look at the 11 that I imagine will take to the field, it's got to be said, there's going to be a lot of jeopardy there and a lot of risk.
Harmy, I know that your doubts about Robinson are still quite raw. That's one way of putting it. Unless I've missed something, he's taken 17 wickets at 26, of which 11 came against Leicestershire. So I'm not so sure that nobody's doubting that he's very skillful, but not sure that those are numbers that fully justify this recall.
Yeah, I mean, like John said, and like Ollie said at the start of the summer, he said, you know, he went through a dark patch in his life off the field, which I mean, I've got a huge amount of sympathy for. I really do. And a bit like I was saying a bit earlier about Shoaib Bashir, you know, his best ball, Ollie Robinson's best ball, his best spell is test match worthy. Not a problem. I've got no problem with his first spell. Yeah, but he said he's had 17 wickets at 26, 11 against Leicester, and he bowled really well against Warwickshire. I watched quite a bit of his bowling against Warwickshire. He bowled two good innings. I think he got 2 for and a 3 for against a decent side in Warwickshire, probably the best side that's playing first-class cricket at this moment in England. And I thought he bowled well there. And then he came up against Surrey on a pitch which is what you're going to get in Test match cricket. It's a chief executive pitch. It's a flat pitch against the Test match unit. He got 1 for 99 off 27. And he looked as though he bowled about 74 mile an hour at the back end of it. That spell there, that was the one that really put the line through it for me. And that's why I was critical last week when people are mentioning his name. Because I'm not worried about Ollie Robinson in the first Test match. Because when he's at it, he's on it. It's when he's got to back it up. And he's got to back it up. In international cricket, you have to back it up. And now, the way the calendar, especially in Test matches, is condensed, you might have to back it up 2 Test matches out of 3 in a series, back to back to back. Now, he is the bowler. We are wanting to bowl lots of overs. He is our start of the session bowler. He's our containing bowler. And that has to be at 100% best. And unfortunately, I've not seen enough this year, and I've seen a lot of Ollie this year. I've not seen enough this year that, for me, would say he is the man that comes in. I look at Jimmy Anderson. I'd love to know what Jimmy Anderson's got to think about that selection. Jimmy's 43, Ollie Robinson's, 32? I'd love to know what Jimmy really thinks about this selection.
John, did Rob Key say anything about the absence of Jofra Archer? Just talking about pace in amongst the bowlers in this squad. Sonny Baker is the quickest of them this season. He's been touching 90 miles an hour. Is he a serious contender? Did you get an explanation for either from Rob Key?
That's one of the funny things I find about this 50-man squad, you know, Manners and Harmy. I don't think 4 of them have got much of a chance of playing. You know, if you put down the 15, I can't see Sonny Baker playing. I can't see James Roux playing. Can't see Matt Fisher playing. Ahmed might play, right? He's the only one.
I think Ahmed plays. Bashir doesn't play.
Right. So Ahmed and Bashir, you know, they're the two and they are so different. And, you know, and that for me is a confusing kind of like element to this as well. But I do understand, and Hami's made this point in the past, you play one of them if you've got bowlers that can tie up an end and you know, obviously Ahmed comes with the batting that Bashir doesn't, but then Bashir is a better bowler than Ahmed in my mind. But if New Zealand haven't picked a spinner, so maybe England won't, right? I just think, though, for all the talk of Robinson, completely fair enough, come that second test, you know, it might be over forever because Archer is expected to come back. Now, who's he going to come back for? He's not coming back for Josh, unless his injury, of course. He's not coming back for Josh Tongue. He's not coming back for a spinner. So he's either coming back for Robinson or Atkinson. Now, it could be that he comes back for Atkinson. Atkinson's, you know, been dropped recently. So it could be that, right? Or he comes back for Robinson and we never hear from Robinson again. Then there's Carse as well. You know, is he going to be coming back at any stage? So there's all of that there. But in terms of the question about Archer, this is a guy on a central contract for England, and he's not fit and ready to play for England at the start of the Test summer.
Yeah.
Right? And that was a question asked to Rob Key about whether there's frustration in there for him in that regard.
Yeah, I think that's the world we live in at the moment. We're always trying to do the dance between making sure that we have our best players playing and available as much as possible. And there's a hell of a lot of cricket. And actually, you want them to be coming in fresh, ready, have enough bowling under them so they can perform at their best. And I believe that this attack that we've got is the best attack we can pick going into that first Test match. When Jofra then later on, when he gets back from the IPO and Touchwood has played some cricket going into it, then he adds to an already strong attack.
Well, it's Rob Key saying that life is what it is, Harmy, which is interesting. I'm sure you've got some pretty strong thoughts on that. We need to talk about Marcus North, though, as well. John, again, you get a different sense when you can see somebody rather than just read a press release, even if it is on a Zoom call. The press release was interesting when it said that he would be expected to contribute, was a word that was used twice in the statement. Contribute to the selecting of men. So, you know, he is very much part of a team. He's he doesn't have a casting vote or anything like that. So again, I mean, you've indicated that Rob had his politician's hat on and wasn't giving too much away, apart from the fact that Emilio Gay will open the batting. But what sense did you get of the importance of Marcus North's appointment?
Well, the question was asked and it was framed along the lines of, considering all the resource that we've got in this country, is it not a disappointment that the selector is an Australian? Which was firmly just swatted to one side. And Rob Key let's hear what Rob Key had to say about the appointment of Marcus North.
Marcus, we felt, was the best candidate. We had a lot of people apply for the job. We ran 2 stages of the process in terms of interviews, one where we had 10, 11 people, and then we whittled it down to a final 4, and Marcus came out on top of that. We've also had that county insight group that we met with: Mickey Arthur, Alan Richardson, Anthony McGrath, and Richard Dawson, who added some insight from both divisions as much as anything else. So we've tried to, not for the sake of it, take some insight from the county game, but actually we feel that those people have added a lot to this. Marcus North was in selection, as much as he hasn't started now, but he was in selection last night. He has a vote on the squad, not that we got to that point. And he had a big say in it, really. Obviously, he knows Emilio Gay. He knows a lot of the players that we've been speaking about. So he's already been an asset to our setup.
So in there is exactly what you'd expect, right? This is a guy who's played and been in this country for a long time, and he knows the county scene. Yada, yada, yada. Nothing really too much to add to all that. The point that you make about the contribution. It was interesting to hear Nasser and Athers on Sky's coverage of the rain-affected second ODI, which, as I speak, they've gone to IPL highlights, so fearing the worst there. He was talking about, was it Hugh Morris, was the old selector? Was it Hugh Morris? He said he came in with ideas and attitude and ego, and he backed up his thoughts, right? That's what Nasser is hoping to get from Marcus North, a man who's going to turn up with ideas, and he will be able to argue and back up those ideas, and someone that is going to be forceful with it. So we shall see what happens. All I do know is, back at that Lord's briefing that I attended with Rob Key and the CEO of the ECB, Richard Gould, and they put up this PowerPoint presentation, too many cooks. We've been in cricket so long, right? And it's like a lot of life. You either streamline and rely on common sense, or you groupthink. And we seem to just go from one extreme to the other across cricket, and probably will be for the rest of our lives. Seems to be a lot of voices in there. So whether Marcus North has got the ability to shout louder and rise above the rest, we'll just have to wait and see.
I think from North, I think it's a good appointment. I mean, I'm not bothered about the Australian bit. I really don't care. I mean, I just want the best person for the job. I didn't care about Baz getting the job from New Zealand. I played for Duncan Fletcher and for Andy Flower, two of the best coaches that, I didn't realise how good Duncan was until I'd pissed him off so much. I'd messed him around so much that I realised how good he was when he was gone. And that's nothing against Peter Moores. But Andy Flower, again, another level again, Zimbabwe. Not bothered about what their nationality is. Northie's been in this country. Northie first came over as an 18-year-old. He married a girl from Newcastle, so that shouldn't be held against him. Rod Marsh was a huge contributor, both as a sort of national academy mentor and then national selector during and up to that 2005 when we were successful. Northie will, I don't think Northie would have took the job. Knowing Marcus as I do, I don't think he would have took the job if he thought he was going to be not listened to, or he wasn't going to be heavily involved and contributing on where things are going. I think we've had the streamlining in everybody sort of working towards what McCullum wants, and with a lot of the backroom staff being removed. I think now he needs some common sense people around him who have got not only good ideas, but like what Nasser and others have said, that can back that up. And I think Marcus has got a good enough track record in the English game as director of cricket at Durham to understand what the landscape of English cricket is and what England need as a team going forward. Whether McCullum likes that or not, that is going to be obviously, the story of the next 18 months getting in towards the Ashes. So I've got no problem with Marcus North. I think it's a very, very good, a shrewd appointment.
Yeah, I just want to say that Marcus North has played for a third of all first-class counties in England. So he knows conditions. He's a great reader of technique. And, just those two factors alone make him eminently qualified to be the men's selector. John, we're out of time, but I'm going to give you the last word because a little bit of history was made with the appointment of Sarah Taylor as fielding coach for this series, this 3 tests against New Zealand.
Yeah, we're all racking our brains to try and think of an example in football, rugby, cricket, any team sport in England where a female coach has taken over full-time duties, although maybe just for this series. But from what Rob Key was saying, this could be a long-term appointment, certainly something that they're looking at long-term. And I think it's wonderful, really. And she was a phenomenal keeper. We know that. We saw that. And very successful at the highest level. And, that's it's an area of the game that England have been criticised for not covering. So to have her involved and also being a bit of a trailblazer, that can only be a positive thing. Can I just ask you what you think, though, Manners? I haven't heard. At the end of the show, I still don't know what you think. I'd rather like to know.
I think Shoaib Bashir's inclusion is a nod to the fact that his career is being reborn successfully at Derbyshire. I do hope that, Harmy and I have said this a couple of times, that he is he is left to continue that work with Derbyshire and with Mickey Arthur, and that he's not rushed back into the Test lineup. There's no hurry. You know, the more overs he bowls, he's taking wickets, he's playing cricket, he's appreciated, he's experiencing, you know, the love and trust of a caring coach and teammates who want him in the team. And, you know, he's been without that for a while. I am worried for Sonny Baker. I mean, he talks really well. There's a couple of been really excellent interviews with him about his horror start in white ball cricket for England against South Africa, and how keen he is to put that right. It's one thing rushing a young quick into white ball cricket, but there's nowhere to hide in Test cricket, as Harmy knows better than you and I, John. So, you know, I find those selections very interesting, and I concur exactly with what you said about it seems to me to be an 11 with 3 or 4 reserves. That's the way it looks to me. And yeah, will be interesting to see who Jofra replaces when he comes back. Apparently, my contacts in the IPL tell me that he has been bowling some red ball overs while he's out there. So, you know, his workload should be higher than just 20 over cricket, just IPL cricket. But yeah, Harmy, it does look like an 11 with 4 reserves to me.
Yeah, and I think I hope they've learned. I hope though as well they learned from, I think, some of the mistakes they've made in the recent past. And I know you've got to have concussion substitutes and you've got to have your people around, but don't stifle Bashir's education in the game that's going in the right direction over the course of the last few months with Mickey Arthur and Derbyshire by having him around the group and missing cricket. I know I understood this stuff with Jacob Bethel last year, and Matt Potts suffered from it last year. So I think it's important that if Fisher's not in the first 11, he is sent straight back to Surrey to keep bowling, to keep fit, to keep his confidence high. And the same with Bashir and 1 or 2 others who get left out, to make sure that when they are asked to play cricket for England, they haven't had a prolonged break, they haven't sort of had any confidence dented or, you know, momentum stopped by sitting in a dressing room with a nice tracksuit on and a nice hotel, carrying drinks with a high vis on. Get somebody from the MCC Young Cricketers to do that. Get them back playing. Get them into the game. Get them confident. So when they do come back for England, you get the best version of a Matt Fisher, of a Shoaib Bashir, of a Sonny Baker, because that's what you've picked them for.
One other thing, Bryden Cass could be back for the second test, almost certainly for the third. So there's not going to be a lot of time for these bowlers to make a first impression, if they indeed even get one, manners.
Well, it won't be long before the 3 of us are in the Lord's commentary box. And a reminder that overseas listeners will be able to listen to live ball-by-ball commentary of England's Test series against New Zealand on the talkSPORT Cricket YouTube channel.